It's the sick part about trading where it's
Yeah.
like we are designed to fail as humans.
I mean, I was just buying anything that was being called out in the beginning.
From 100 shares, then he would see something on the tape and go to 5,000 shares with a 10-cent stop.
But
Right.
I'm treating it like a business. I want my money to grow, and that's how you do that. If you're
Bored, and then I could just hear like order filled, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on back there? What are you doing? Just relax.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Shooting the Shit, episode 5, take 2.
Yeah. Ooh. Reduplicating that energy. Oh my God.
Shit happens.
Just talked for
We're
a fucking
trying to bring
hour.
the energy. The first one was really fire, but things just happen. But it's okay. We're gonna run it again. So, Shake. Trading is not all sunshine and rainbows, right? We like to say we wish it was. We love to post our big days and all these things, but there are some losses. But there are also some very good lessons in those losses. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about way back in your prop trading days. What was one of your biggest lessons learned, or one of your biggest losses, and what happened? What'd you learn from it?
All right. So the first one that comes to mind is definitely it's more of a time period than a specific loss. And I'll tell a little bit about the background. It was around September 2014. It was around the Alibaba IPO. And to paint the picture a little bit, I had just moved up to one of the better desks, and I got gifted one of the best seats in the house. I was sitting next to the best trader who ended up becoming my mentor. And I'll never forget, I was moving in the middle of the day, and people were like chirping me, talking shit, like, why are you moving that mook next to the throne? Stuff like that, because I was coming from one of the lower desks. And they could have moved it around to move someone else next to him and then me just like over at that desk. But I was lucky enough to get moved next to him. So the seating arrangements on trading floors are like, that's like rank. So like, because all the best guys want to sit next to each other, and because then you can just whisper and talk, and this looks good. What are you looking at? You can peek over at their screen. So I was gifted sitting next to him for reasons I still don't really know. I'm very thankful for. But I went in there like after getting chirped and all that. People didn't really like me as much because I just got gifted this seat. So I went in there with kind of something to prove, with more like a chip on my shoulder. And so I moved there in the beginning of August, and then I traded pretty well those first 2 months, put up back-to-back green months. And then the Alibaba IPO came, and that was like September 24th or something. That was 2014. So this is right around the time I just finally started ringing off like $1,000 days. I had my first $1,000 day probably 3 or 4 months prior to this. And they weren't like, it wasn't like it is now where I could put up the big P&L days. I just finally hit the threshold of $1,000. I'm finally risking $1,000 on my favorite trades now. So it was like I was reaching these milestones and growing a little bit, but I was nowhere near where I am now, and I didn't really have the vision that I could be where I am now back then.
Yeah.
So the day that Alibaba IPO came in, IPOs were like, they were our bread and butter at the time. We used to be salivating Thursdays and Fridays. We would like sneak into the bathroom a little bit, have a little bit of Adderall party, like 9:15 a.m. And we would call it like taking steroids, juicing up for the IPOs. And that's just the way it was. Like literally like half the desk would all just meet in there. It was kind of fucked up. So, to get focused. And so we would all go in there balls to walls trading these IPOs. So then Alibaba's coming around. It's the end of the summer. And this is like the IPO of all IPOs. It's going to be a thick, high beta, like this huge company, this huge, very successful company. The biggest tech company coming out of China. Everything was pointing to like this huge IPO. It priced at like 68. It ended up opening at $90. But I remember going into the day, I was going to risk $2,000 in this trade, and that was big at the time. I'd never risked more than $1,000, so this one was worth like 2x to me. So I went in there, and the IPO opens, and we're trading it, and I get my position where I'm risking $2,000. It makes this huge move, and we can't really see it. The level 2 is illegible. You cannot read it. It's moving so fast. The charts are so delayed, so you don't really know what's going on. So we just start throwing these ridiculous limit offers out there. It's trading around 90, 92, 94. We start throwing out 104 offers, 108, 112, and these never get touched. It hits a wall at 100. So it goes up to 100 and then pulls all the way in back down to 90 or 92, whatever the low was. And and I didn't get the kicks off. So then you're kind of stuck if you don't get any kicks off, where it's just
Right.
pulling in on you. As we're watching this Peloton literally right now. Oh yeah, whole market. Oh no.
Oh
So
no.
that's fun.
Ah, yikes.
Um, so so if you miss those kicks, you're kind of screwed because you just kind of have to watch it pull in your face. You don't want to kick it on the way down because then if it positions itself higher, you're gonna be super mad at yourself. So you kind of wait for a pivot and you want to kick on the next move up, but the pivot. I'm out of Peloton. So you don't want to kick on the way down because you want to kick on the way up always. So it pulls in. I have no choice, but it just keeps pulling in, and eventually stops me out. And I got stopped out at 89.99 was my stop. It made a low of 89.95. So I take this crushing loss. I was up 12,000 in the trade at one point, and to me, and when you're risking $1,000 on a trade, you're never achieving that type of win, or not often. So that was a number I couldn't even fathom at the time.
We have a special guest listening.
Hey, what up, French Montana? So I'm up 12K and I watch it pull all the way back in to where I eventually take this 2K loss, and it's just absolutely soul crushing to me. And to make matters worse, I was sitting next to the beast. I was, a month or two in. He saw my emotions. I'm more of a newer trader. He was like 7 years in at that point. So he saw my emotions and bought so much stock off that 90, sold on the way up, like absolutely killed the trade as I'm getting crushed, probably because of my emotions and things like that. So it really just went to show me it was really a crushing loss at the time. And then from there, I went on this downward spiral where I would try to make that money back every day. And I would come in, I would trade 20,000 shares. I'm trading off like 5-minute bull flags. It's all a mess. It's like there's no rhyme or reason. I'm coming in every day ready to risk the same amount of money, and I ended up halving my account in those 2 months.
Oh man.
Yeah, and it was like that was the first real, and it ended up being such a blessing because that taught me how much I needed the psychology aspect of trading. I had never even looked into it before that. So getting into those aspects, taking all those losses and sticking with it, harbored me and molded me into being a much better trader and getting out of that first initial loss, which was so soul crushing. But what those losses really went to teach me is that I was talking before about, I went over to that new desk. I was trying to prove myself. I was trying to have all these call outs. I didn't take any profit when I'm risking 2K and I'm up 12K.
Yeah.
It's like that's just really bad trading. But I was always trying to prove myself. I was always trying to be better than the next guy because I had that chip on my shoulder. And it took me a really long time to learn that wasn't the right way of doing things. So, yeah, you got it.
No, I mean that's just I can definitely relate to that. Just like you said, all of a sudden you're risking twice what you usually risk, and that right away just totally messes with your psyche. It really messes with your head because it not just coming up like 10% or even 5%. You're completely doubling your risk. And it's happened to me before as well, where usually I was only risking maybe $300-400, and then on this one trade I'm risking 1,000, and I trade it like terribly because I want the move to happen right away, so I don't stick to the proper stop, and then I get shaken out. I take an L, which is a big loss for no reason, only to see it rip next, and it's like that big win that you wanted ended up just being a big loss. So you really have to. You got to move up step by step instead of trying to just double your risk out of nowhere just because you think it's going to be a great trade.
Right. Exactly.
So you mentioned, the guy next to you, he was the king of the court, and he was kind of your mentor. I mean, do you still talk to him? Where is he now? What's up with him?
So on and off, I spoke to him maybe 9 months ago. The last I heard, he was trading at BlackRock actually, so we can't really talk trading as much anymore. They trade $4 trillion. It's the largest asset management firm in the world. So he was trading for them last I talked. I was trying to get so much information out of him, but he's a vault these days.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you, and he was, and it's funny. The one thing he did tell me was that his trading style has completely transformed. Where he was the guy who famously I saw him put up 63 straight green days just coming in day trading. If you don't understand the difficulty and never taking a day off, executing and coming in,
insane.
just pounding the keys every day. I learned such amazing day trading skills off him that it worked to sharpen my tool belt, but at the same time, it worked adversely against me because I thought that was really the right way of trading. Things like I would often see him go from 100 shares, then he would see something on the tape and go to 5,000 shares with a 10-cent stop, like which is very low probability trades, but he would make it work and he would just kick into these pops and it would be like very incredible to watch him trade. But it took me a really long time to learn you don't want to be incredible. Boring trading is good trading, we say.
Yeah.
Like you don't want. We used to obsess over the dots. You buy a dot you buy something, it makes a dot on the screen. You sell. So it wasn't as much about your P&L, your ideas, and all that. At the end of the day, we look at everyone's dots. Who had the best executions? Because we were doing it for sport. So it was much more about the sport of it and the competition aspect than everything else. And that was one of my biggest downfalls at the trading firm, was always being so competitive. I wouldn't be thinking what was best for my account. I'm thinking, how can I make more money than the guy next to me, which is absolutely backwards, and it's only going to set yourself up for failure in the future.
Yeah, or letting yourself off because maybe you lose less than the guy next to you. So you're like, oh, well, the guy next to me lost more, so it's okay that I lost as much as I did. I mean, it's not. It's okay to lose, but that shouldn't, that shouldn't like make you happy because you lost less than the guy next to you.
Yeah, constantly comparing yourself is a fool's errand, especially in trading. It's your own account. You're playing. You said this so well in the last recording. I'm gonna steal it. You're really just playing this game against yourself, and that's the most important part. That's what really took me years and years and years to learn. It's like it doesn't matter how the next guy does. All it matters is how I'm doing, how I'm trading, my ideas, my thought process, my mental capital, things like that. That's what's really important. Doesn't matter what the guy next to me is doing, and it took me a really long time to learn that.
Right, and it's probably really hard to do when you're sitting in an office with other people doing the same thing. So I guess that's kind of like, when you're weighing out the pros and cons of being at a prop firm versus what you do now. You have your own private desk. You're doing what you got to do. You can focus a lot more on what you have to do and less on what other people are doing, which is something. I mean, when I started, I was very much I was very focused on what's going on in Alpha Chat. Which there are times when it's important to listen up, because there's some great insight and a lot of lessons to learn right in the middle of the trading day that can make you avoid really big mistakes. But there were also times where, for example, I mean, I was just buying anything that was being called out in the beginning. Right. And one of the first things I tell people when when they've made it to Alpha Chat, one of the first rules is like, if you didn't have a game plan for it the day before, then you don't buy it today. And now, once you advance, sometimes that rule bends a little bit because maybe you had it on watch, but it wasn't a close watch, and then somebody reminded you, and then, okay, that's a different thing. But if you're just starting out and you see me call something out, and you see Shake call something out, and you see Higgins call something out, and Django, and all these people, not only do we all trade differently, so it's completely going to screw you up because you're going to try to trade those 4 different names in the same way while we're all trading them in different ways. So then you're going to think that like you're doing something wrong, which you are, but it doesn't make you a bad trader. You're just not making your own game plans, doing your homework and following those. So while the Alpha Chat is great and it's great to discuss, you still have to stick to what you are doing. You can't just freeload off of call outs. It doesn't work.
And you'll find that, it becomes very negative if you try to take every trade. That was something I struggled with in the beginning of when we really first started Trading Experts, because I felt I so much had to prove myself to everyone. I had no track record. People didn't really know me. They saw the newsletters, but it's like,
right. Who is this guy?
Right. Exactly. So in the beginning, there's a lot more contention in the Alpha Chat. People were talking a lot more shit. And it was almost me and Ben, when we originally started the business, we thought we needed to be like our bosses were to us. And that's how we were in the first year. We were fucking mean. Ben's still pretty mean, but
no, he's
a lot nicer than he was.
Well, I'm the mentor now, so he actually passed the mean stuff on to me, and now I'm mean to people.
You're the mean guy. But we used to be ruthless because that's what we learned was the proper way of doing things. That's what we thought, because what they did was they would try to get all the weak hands just out of here. If you weren't made for trading, you weren't going to make it on the desk in 2 weeks because you were going to get belittled and berated and you were going to hate life. And if you couldn't stick through that, how are you going to trade the stock market? So that was their whole goal in the beginning aspect of it. So that's how we kind of ran the business. Then we quickly learned that it just wasn't the best way of doing things. Just from a human being standpoint, it's like,
Right.
you're not going to be in a great headspace if you got to be a dick all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting learning that. So back to what I was. Oh yeah.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say how like that makes a lot of sense, because I mean, at a prop firm, there's only so many amount of seats that you can have.
Right.
So like they are gonna try to cut the weak people out so that they can have an opportunity to get a better person in there, because they just want the best of the best.
Right.
When it comes to what we do, I mean, we can afford to just let people go at their own pace. I always try to recommend people to just, stay consistent and do it, because that's the best way to go through it. And I learned that through experience. I was sitting and getting started for months, but Ben kept following up with me, and I kept hitting him with stupid excuses, like, oh, I'm in school. Oh, I'm doing my real estate exam, which was fucking easy as hell. I don't even know why that was a thing. But, people always have these excuses, and it's really the only thing holding them back is themselves. And if you just prioritize certain things, it's going to pay off in the long run, So it's like, you just have to do that.
Completely. What was I going to say? I was talking about, so we were talking about lessons learned, tough lessons learned. And back to when I was saying I had to prove myself in the beginning. And so much like in the beginning when I moved desks, in that first story, the Alibaba stuff, where I felt I had to prove myself and I was over trading, I was doing too much. I was always trying to be the great trader instead of worrying about my P&L or my account or whatever, and it caused a lot of mistakes. And I felt I went through that almost again when we started up the Alpha Chat, when I really had to prove myself again. We were in a great market, a breakout market, so it was much easier to do so. And you got bailed out of bad trades a lot more often when we were in that breakout market. But what was I saying is, so in the beginning, I used to be like the IPO master, and especially in Alpha Chat, and people would even be like ready to like watch me trade them and shit like that. I can't wait to see your video later on how you trade that, which created a lot of pressure internally for me. So the one that really changed me in the IPO game, whereas I don't really trade IPOs day one as much, is Shopify. So Spotify. So Spotify, and that was only probably 2 years ago. Spotify, they came out, they released their IPO with no underwriters. So meaning there's no banks behind them. So, hindsight 2020, we shouldn't have really traded that as much, because the banks were always the underlying bid. And if an IPO closed above its IPO price, it's like looks good for the bank. So they would have all the stock, they would buy it up, and they would make sure it closed above the price. So with Spotify, where they didn't have those underwriters, the IPO just absolutely tanked. So I fought the stock the entire day. I went in risking 2K. I went in risking 4K, and at the time I was risking like 2K a trade, and I ended up losing 9K because I was just fighting with it. And I look back at the shit I was saying to the chat, I was like, oh, this might be a base here, when it was like complete bear flag. Nothing looked good really about the trade from the jump, and I was just fighting with the stock. I mentally was like, I have to be this guy, so I was imposing my will on the stock. And I ended up losing 9,000 when I originally went in risking 4,000. And that was such a crushing loss at the time. That's what really made me change from trading day one IPOs. I think anything where you have to rely on your hand speed to make the big bucks is kind of a fool's errand, in that you're not going to be able to scale it like you need to. So, now I can't take a trade now if it's less than, let's say, 2,000 shares. If I do that in an IPO, I lose $2 quick. It's just like it crushes your mental capital. I'll make a lot of jokes about breaking keyboards and stuff. I've never broken a keyboard for like a failed swing trade. That's just, I've been in it for days and it fails. That happens. This Roku is probably going to fail behind us. That shit happens. It fell in my system when I bought it, and I took that loss. The reason the ways I'll break keyboards is the 5-minute losses where I'm losing thousands of dollars in a trade I wasn't planning on taking. I saw some volume on a 5-minute chart, and I quickly put on this crazy amount of risk, and I lost it in 15 minutes. Those are like the really mental capital draining trades for me. So I'll never get mad at a regular loss. That's all part of the game. Not every trade's going to work. But for me, so I was talking about that IPO, where it's like I had to relearn that lesson, where I don't have to be the man every day. That's only gonna hurt my trading and hurt my account more and more if I'm trying to prove myself to the market or to Alpha or to whoever. You gotta you just gotta stay even keeled and never really get too up or too down.
Yeah.
or too excited or too sad about a trade. That's really as plainly as you could say it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it seems like so that IPO on Spotify, I mean, it seems like you almost ticked off every mistake or every wrong way to do a trade.
Right. And that was in my 5th year, you know?
Yeah, and so it was a couple of years ago, but I mean, can you kind of remember how you felt like as soon as you took the trade? I know it's been a while, but can you recollect
Oh no,
how that felt?
I can completely. When you start to tense up, you look at really small time frames. You're trying to talk yourself into this being right.
Hmm.
You're over leveraging yourself, taking on too much size. Just doing everything so that the stock had to work this second. And if it didn't work this second, then I'm just crushed.
Okay,
And
so now let's say it happens again, or you get those kind of feelings again. What should you do, or what do you do? You know, where you realize that you made a mistake, that like, you catch it before it gets really bad. What do you do in that scenario?
I'll have no problem sizing down. If
Okay.
if I feel like I have too much size, or I'm trading off the wrong time frame, or my stop
Mhm.
is bullshit, I have no problem sizing down, or getting out of a trade completely, and just making and being comfortable with that decision. That's something that's taken a long time, because if a lot of times it's funny how the human mind works, where it's like you're almost looking for, in bad times, you're looking for reasons to be mad at yourself. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if it's very self-sabotaging. It's like
Hmm.
why humans aren't really built to be traders, and the average human fails because humans love to self-sabotage even if you don't realize it.
Yeah.
Whereas like I was saying, I'll have no problem sizing down, but a few years ago I would have problem sizing down, or if I size down, no matter what happens, let's say the stock rose after I sized down, I'm pissed because
Yeah.
I could have had all this size. I could have done
Hmm.
this. I could have
Hmm.
done that. So it's getting out of taking a step back and getting out of those self-sabotaging ways that we're just programmed as humans to do. It's the sick part about trading, where it's
Yeah.
like we are designed to fail as humans.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and I
people,
mean, it's not only trading. You know, it's what you think about and what you feel you attract. If you buy a car and it's a red car, you're gonna spot more red cars, and it's just fact. Like, it's scientifically proven that that's just what happens. You know, so you have to kind of think of trading the same way. If you think that everything's gonna go bad and all these terrible things, you will automatically just start doing the wrong things. And I think, like you said, cutting at least some of it, if not most of it, when you right away you feel like it was a mistake. One thing that I do, I read it in a book, one of my first books that I read last year. It was, I guess you can call it like the 50-50 rule. It's like when you don't know whether to sell or to hold it, just sell half.
you didn't
Because
read that
then,
in a book. That's my fucking rule.
no, I did read
50-50
it in a
rule.
book. No,
Okay.
no, I read that in a book.
I've
Okay,
been saying that since you've been in diapers. But
whatever. So sold half. Okay, boomer. Sold half, and you're either happy because you sold half and it dumped, so you lost less, or it went up and you still made money on it. So it's like, just that's a good rule to
that's
have.
taking the right mental point of view. But I want to kind of contend one of your points. You were saying like you attract what you get, and yes and no. In trading, I think trading is very different. Whereas the things that work for you in life. Let's say I'm a super bubbly person and I'm just like being nice to everyone. I'm building relationships. I'm fostering these relationships. And these relationships are growing because of it. If I walk into the trading day just super happy, super bubbly, that is not necessarily going to affect my end game well.
Yeah,
That's probably going to hurt me in the long run. So
you're right.
that's what the point I was trying to make, where it's like, as humans, the things that work for us in life are not going to work for us necessarily as a trader. We always
Mhm.
say things like, be a robot, where it's like if you're a robot in life, it's not going to work out too well for you. But you kind of have to be the opposite of what you think you should be in trading. As fucked up
Yeah,
as
you
it
got to be at
sounds.
a neutral feeling when you step into the chair and actually trade. For me, it
Yeah.
was more of what I meant is more like if you're constantly thinking about like if you're constantly telling yourself don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't do that Spotify IPO trade, don't trade like that. If you keep saying don't, you're only gonna get don'ts, and that's the part that I was talking about. It's less about attitude and more about your thought process. If you're only focusing on your mistakes, you're probably gonna make a couple more of them.
Yeah.
So you got to look at the bright side and what you can learn from them instead of just what you lost from them.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I like that.
Is that better?
That's a little better.
A little bit better. And so we're always talking to kind of about your prop firm days and how it is today. I mean, are there any other pros and cons compared to trading now and trading at the prop firm?
So even though I talk a lot of shit about the prop firm, it still was a very fun environment. And it's still, you're just going into trade and you do make friends and things like that. It was more of competitive during the physical trading day. But to go against that, where it was that competition aspect, I don't feel the immense amount of pressure I felt every day. As you were saying, you kind of had to earn your seat. That was one thing. And one thing the bosses really did was that I hated, and I still like, if you stand behind me on my computer these days, I'll never be comfortable, because what they used to do. Yeah, seriously. Like, I'll be at home in my home office, and my buddy will come in and just be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like, yeah,
Like, hey,
yeah. Seriously, it's like I'm like, what's up? What's up? Yesterday, I had a guy knocking my WeWork, like, "Hey, I saw these 6 screens, like, had to come say hello." And I'm like, "Dude, like, this is not a good time. Like, I'd love to talk to you later. This is not a good time." So the reason for that, though, is because the bosses, what they used to do, they used to come around in the afternoons and they would say P&L's out. You had to put your P&L in the corner of the screen. They would walk by just to see how everyone was doing, and they would just judge you on it. And if it was a red day, they'd make some little stupid comment, or, they're always just making comments. And what they didn't realize, they were this high, we were so low that would just kill me. Like, every day, I like every red day, I would see the big boss walk in our room, and I would just be like, "Oh my God, here we go." And I'd just get into such a negative place right away. So I would say the really positive aspect is we don't have that competition aspect where we're all gunning for each other. We can always be on the same team in Alpha. That's why we're so strict with, like, no politics, no if anyone starts talking shit to anyone else, we completely squash it. We just always want to be on the same team, because I learned firsthand that it's not going to affect you positively, that competition aspect. It might make you stay later and type up more charts, and that can work positively. Yeah. But if you're physical executing, it's not going to help. It's going to make me personally over trade. I'm going to be too big. I'm going to be worried about the next guy. I'm going to be trading my P&L. I'm going to be looking at too small time frames because I have to make this amount of money. It just harbored all these mistakes that I would consistently make. They used to tell us that the more you traded, the better you'd be, and it took me so long to learn that is just so not true. You're just going to create these horrible habits. And that's what I did. It took me years to unlearn them. And I still make a lot of bad habits that I find are from the trading firm, from those really small time frame days.
Yeah. And for example, even in Alpha Chat, sometimes it does get a little competitive. Sometimes even with just yourself. Like, I've noticed that some people, how we have like our little percentage next to our name. Yeah. Which is kind of like, it's cool. It's a fun little way to kind of have a friendly competition.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that some people will they'll just like kick some shares just because it's a little bit higher than their highest chop.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I noticed it. I'm like, good, that's great. Taking profits is a good thing. But if the reason you're selling a little more is just to get like a higher percentage on your name, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So like for me, mine hasn't changed in since NVCR when we took that trade together.
Mine's not going to change for 2 or 3 years on my time.
Exactly. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's not what I'm going for anymore. I'm not even like trying to beat that. I'm just trying to do the best. I want that 100% P&L account by the end of the year. I don't care about having 100% swing on like 5 shares of NVCR. Like, I don't care. So just a tip for some of the alpha traders out there, like, if be patient with your trades. Don't let that little title change things. I love competition, but at the end of the day, like we said, this is only your business. We're here, we're all working together, but work on your business and figure out how to make it the best business you can. And I want to talk about walking away from the desk, because I think that's
okay.
Were you doing that at the prop firm? Because I know that.
So some days, Bennett, this is like, I like always thank him for this. He would peel me off the desk and take me to Chipotle, because I would just try to sit there all day and just trade. And he could tell by my face if it was a good day or bad day. And like, I was back in those days, I would have a lot more red days. That were just pounding the keys. So it's still a bad habit that I spend way too much time in the morning sitting at the computer, and I don't get up initially. I'll sit down here from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and not get up, and I'll just be so engrossed in this one day. I lose sight of the bigger picture so quickly. In all these videos, at some point, you're going to hear me talk about focus on the big picture, focus on the big picture, because that is just me reminding myself that you need to focus on the big picture, because the way I started and those habits that I formed in the beginning were on such a small time frame that it just created those terrible habits. So I always need to remind myself to not break them. And I still, and whereas I was talking about, I learned the day trading skills from the guy next to me. It's a gift and the curse, because a lot of the times you're going to see shit you don't see. You're going to put on risk with a bad stop. Things like that. Like I got out of that FSLY trade a week ago. Ended up being a great trade, but I saw it flagging right at the level. So at that, I'm gonna take an obscene amount of shares, and I'm just gonna give it a low day stop. And I know it's not the proper stop and things like that. So I caught myself doing that, and at the end of the day, I was like, "Fuck it! Like I'm just getting out of this." I see myself making the bad mistakes. So that's one where I'm talking about, like, I'll have no problem just getting out or downsizing or something like that, because it's all, when you get to this point, when you get to a point of profitability, you find that it's all about keeping yourself at 100 mental capital wise, just keeping yourself mentally where you need to be. If I come to the desk and I'm too tired, or if I'm in a bad mood, or I'm just not going to trade, because I know on those days, if I take a loss, it's going to affect me and my mental state so much more drastically. Right. Yeah. So it's like that. I hate getting in that space. And as trading, as your career, every day is so emotional. Whether you want it to be or not in the trading game, every day you're riding a roller coaster. You're never. Have you ever stared at a clock trading?
Oh, I mean, I'm not staring at the clock, but yeah, I get.
No, like when you're at a shitty job, just counting the seconds. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. When you're at work, like all day long, you're just waiting for it to
and you're never doing that in trading, because you're always in the game. You're always looking at the charts. There's always action. The next 5-minute bar, next 15-minute bar is always coming. There's always like a next thing that's happening. So until the end of the day. So I just think stepping away from the action a little bit. What the fuck did I just get filled on? Wow, that Peloton dumped. Okay, I'm out of Peloton. I don't
part of the game.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about how you're so engrossed into the game that you don't really pay attention to time.
Yeah, no, and it's getting up, and it's doing the little things like getting away from the desk, taking walks. If you can get a midday workout in or something like that, and just stepping away so that you are not so focused on that small 6.5 hour period, and you can see that big picture again. To me, for me, I can really only talk about my experience, and for me, that's the most important thing, is reminding myself over and over and over. It's about the big picture. It's about the year. It's about the it's not about today or this week or even this quarter. It's about the year as a whole, or the decade as a whole. And that's, if you look at things like that, you're just going to win a lot more in the long run, I feel.
Of course. No, I definitely agree, and I've started taking more breaks throughout the day as well. And I mean, that's a privilege that you have to take advantage of as a trader, because like when you have a normal 9-to-5 job, you can't just take a 15-minute walk whenever you want, you know? And if you're just treating this like a 9-to-5 job, and you're there and you're sitting at your chair from 9:30 to 4, then it's just another 9-to-5 job. But I'm treating it like a business. I want my money to grow. And that's how you do that. If you're just sitting here basically being paid by the hour or trying to do that, you might as well just get a normal job, because this is way more stressful as a 9-to-5 job than a normal 9-to-5 job. So you can't treat it the same way.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess another pro from being at the prop desk was meeting Ben.
Yeah, I mean, that was, and it was funny because we were forced to be friends. It was funny. I remember the day he was looking at who was a football. He was looking at, so Arian Foster. He was a football player, and he was thinking about like attaching his contract to some investment firm where you could invest in him virtually. And I saw him looking at it. I saw him looking at it. I was like, oh my God, the one other white guy on the desk likes sports. So I was like, what's up, bro? Like, how are you? Like, you see this Arian Foster shit? It's crazy. And he's like, oh no, I don't like sports at all. I don't know how this got on my screen. I'm like, oh God, this fucking loser. I swear, he was like, oh no, I don't like sports at all. Like, why would you think that? It's like, as a football articles on his screen. But no, we got lunch that day, and then we were boys ever since. But yeah, no, it was super funny how it worked out in the beginning.
I definitely see like the yin and yang of your friendship.
Yeah, no, and still we still learn a lot of lessons off each other. Right. I hope I can make him a little softer.
For sure. I've only been here for 3 years, but I think he has definitely changed like a lot, since when I started to now. I see a lot less fights in like the getting started chats, like he just lets stuff go,
Right.
mostly because I handle them now. So
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the dick. So, I just see it's a lot more, well, kind of like you said in the beginning, like no one's out there to really prove themselves anymore. Like you and Ben know where you stand. If people want to challenge that, then go for it, but you don't really care because I mean you're just doing what you need to do. So there's no more having to prove that you're the top guy like in the beginning. Because in the beginning, I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's like I'm gonna join your trading group, but I don't even know who you are or what you've done. Like, how do I
Right.
not know I'm not better than you?
Right.
And but over time you start to know who's at the king's table.
Ha 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 ha.
But yeah, I think I think I would be nowhere near where I am just trading on my own and not with Alpha Chat. I think that it's super super important to be part of a community because it is a really lonely game,
Something
especially if you're
some
sitting at home.
something we didn't really touch upon that I think it's so important of trading with a group is confirmation of ideas.
Yeah.
It becomes much more easier to put on risk if the next guy is seeing the exact same thing you are. There was a period where I left the firm and we didn't have the chat started, an alpha chat yet. So
Hmm.
I was just trading on my own. I was just trading from home. It was before I got an office. And that was such a lonely endeavor. It was, and I didn't have the confirmation of ideas, and I wouldn't be able to go as hard as at ideas. I didn't have as good a sense of the market. I feel because I have to direct, not like I have to direct the market or I direct everyone with the market, but I take more of a role of kind of the macro picture and stuff like that in the alpha chat. Like, but having everyone there and everyone making me accountable for it, and then everyone else giving their feedback makes the discussion as whole a lot more valuable, if you will.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, definitely. I always like to see a little conviction in whatever I do, and I get that by bringing it up in the chat, and somebody says, "Oh, I was looking at that too." That's awesome, D Dog, for example. Shout out to E Rich again. I scooped D Dog
So
yesterday, right
yesterday,
off the
yeah.
right off the 8 moving average. I'm risking like super low risk, and then he messaged me. He's like, "Yo, that was sick. Like that was a good buy." And today, I mean, it did well, and I'm super happy about it because that gave me like the stamp of approval of those support buys because I know that he loves doing those.
Mhm.
So just doing little things like that, it really it changes the game. And I mean, it's not going to happen your first day in Alpha Chat. It takes time to really understand how it works. You have to, like I said, you have to do your own homework. You can't just follow everybody's call outs, but having those people on your team and backing up your ideas is super helpful.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Definitely agree.
Mhm. So, I mean, I think we're gonna wrap this baby up.
Yeah, that's good. This is a good wrap time.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was some good time off the market. I mean, we had a little break. I don't think I would have done anything in the meantime anyways. Just kind of gotta let your stocks do what they want to do.
Gotta
And
let these fucking high betas
yeah,
sink
and
into
just
the close right
stick
now.
to stick to the GPs. Just curse at Peloton a little bit, but whatever. It's okay.
No, it's funny
And
because I can hear. I have to use this to record, and then I can just hear like order filled, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on back there? What are you doing? Just relax. Just sit down. Why
Ay,
don't
ay,
you?
ay. All
10
right.
minutes left in
And
the day.
well, with that, guys, please throw us a little thumbs up, smash the like, subscribe, hit us up with any questions,
More
things you want
questions,
us
the
to
better.
talk about.
Definitely, the more questions, the better. So
Yeah,
we have some
for
shit to
sure.
talk about.
We want to know what you guys want to know. Um, so hit us up, whether it's on Instagram or in the comments below, and join us in the Getting Started group. If you're not there yet and you want to learn how to trade, we're more than happy to help. And we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Till then.